website on our permits so that this is no longer a third-party vendor hosting our parking experience. It is Pensacola, the city of Pensacola, using the Park Pensacola app. And I'm going to let Karen kind of give everyone an update on the transition plan and where we've come since October 1st and where we're going.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, Freddie, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. We know that the general perception of a city is impacted by its traffic and parking conditions. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. More people are likely to choose a destination and spend their time and money in an environment where they know their parking concerns are understood and addressed. So by applying time and effort to invest in a solution that takes advantage of the space that already exists and simplifies the overall experience, Pensacola can achieve one of our biggest goals, which is happy citizens and visitors. So, thank you, Freddie. Just like cities in other parts of the world, the city of Pensacola's transportation strategy encompasses a lot more than parking. CPPM is a mobility department, and it focuses on strategies and transition options as well as on-street and off-street parking. Okay, Freddie. So the mission of CPPM is to provide freedom through parking and transportation choices that enhance our community's quality of life, leisure, and happiness. And Lisa's broken the parking strategy into 6 different parts, and each one has its own plan of attack. The first is the city website, then a new parking app that's city branded with e-permits, signs and wayfinding that are easy and branded and really simple, easy to see, a public education and marketing plan, a comprehensive strategy for transportation, and then data collection and reporting so that we kind of know how things are working, what are people doing with the information, how we can make it better, constantly improving. So first, the city's website. You know, we worked with the city staff really hard to help bring the city's website into a lot of new information so that people can locate public parking, locate free parking, answer their parking questions quickly, locate handicap parking, learn how to purchase a parking permit, download the parking app, click over to ECAT or the ferry system, and then learn about how the money stays local, pay or appeal a citation, and download the app, like I mentioned. So we really wanted the city site to have a lot of information. But at the same time, we also, you can turn to the next slide, Freddie, if you don't mind. We also wanted to create a site that was specifically for the app, that would be easy for people to use, parkpensacola.com, where people can just go to download the app directly, learn a lot about the app. The new app is really an upgrade. It also has a new feature that'll be launched in January that has a filter so you can see all the handicapped parking options in Pensacola. It's available in 26 languages. It's free. It has a Find My Car feature, so if you're older like me and you lose your car when you park, you can easily find it and get walking directions back to your car. I think to me that's my favorite feature of all. You don't have to go back to go to a pay machine at all. You can stay in the safety of your car and pay for parking without going to a pay machine. But if you do use a pay machine, you're out of the restaurant eating or at the Sanger, you can add time to your parking session from your phone, even if you did pay with a pay machine. So it's amazingly easy to use and offers a lot more flexibility than we've ever had before. It also has touch and face ID, touch, Facebook login, text options, so a lot of things that we didn't have before, and there's just 3 steps to use it. It's a really easy app if you guys haven't downloaded it yet. The separate parking page, this is what it looks like. You can click to download the app. You can use it here. You can link back to the city's website through here as well. And we are using this URL, parkpensacola.com, on all the marketing just to make it easy for people to find. So the next section is on e-permits. Lisa's consolidated the e-permitting into this app, this same back-end session so that people can sign in, see how their e-permits are, what their options are for buying an e-permit for the Jefferson Street Garage, the North Halifax parking lot, and other lots. But you can also buy boat ramp passes through the city's e-permitting system. The sign strategy, you may not have seen the new signs are starting to go up, but we took kind of a convoluted sign system that had just been piecemealed over the years and put together, and we're consolidating and making them much more simple to read and see. And we're not just tearing down all the signs and redoing them, but as new signs are made, we're making sure that they're branded for the city and that they're all consistent and that they're easy to find, easy to spot parking for the city. This is what the signage, some of the before signs, you can see what they looked like. They really were starting to kind of be Mr. Potato Head model that I call it in marketing, and where there's just a lot of different things. And then these are some of the newer signs. You can see they're just a lot cleaner, more friendly. Just want people to be able to spot them immediately and know that these are city spots. And then for public education, we're also branding all the materials. There are stickers on the pay machines, there are little pocket guides, social media, ads, rack cards. We've already done a road show for a large group of people from the University of West Florida's continuing education group. And we hand out these pieces as people want to learn more about parking downtown. The small pocket guide has a place where they can write their tag number down if they want to use a pay machine. So everything is really designed to just be friendly and usable. So it's not something that somebody's going to just toss or not understand. So for data collection and reporting, Lisa can probably talk a lot more about this, but there is a business intelligence solution through this platform that integrates a lot of data from different resources into one system. And it helps Lisa constantly predict what's coming up, what happened here, why did it happen, and how can we make something happen. And we said, I don't know if you wanted to go into more detail on that.
Yeah, this is probably the least sexy part about parking as there is, but it's the most critical piece of the puzzle. It's the behind the scenes analytics that goes along with, if we make a small change here, what are the impacts actually on the street? And how do we see what's going on so that we can make good decisions based on real data, not just a one-time situation based on someone's perception. We can actually look and see how are these spaces being used, how is this area of town being used or misused, and how do we improve that experience. So the analytical piece of this is the most important piece, but it's more of an internal use than something that would be seen on the public arena.
Thanks, Lisa. And I know this was a really quick presentation. We understand you have a lot to go over, but mainly we just wanted to say this is the most accessible solution. We really wanted to look at accessibility for as far as having multiple languages, option for your phone to help you find your way back to your car. So we're looking out for handicap spots. In every way, we try to look at all of the issues that have been brought to the forefront, and we'll continue to try to improve these systems as much as possible. But we really appreciate your time and be glad to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I have downloaded the app and used it a few times. In fact, this weekend enjoyed the complimentary initial 30-minute window for a quick stop downtown. I had one quick question, and I do see we've got additional speakers here. I'll be quick. There was a mention there of integration of micro-mobility. Is that something that down the line we'll be able to, I guess, whatever companies we contract with, it could be accessed through this Pensacola parking app?
That is correct. That's the plan. So when we were looking at the back office provider for our app and our permits, we said we don't just want a parking solution, we want a transportation solution. So because we currently have ECAT and we have ferry systems here, they were easily able to provide a link on that app to the bus system and to the ferry system. And if we have down the road micro-mobility partnerships, we'll add them into the mix as well.
Wow, outstanding. Okay, and one other question too. I heard you mention people who pay using the on-street meters, there's an integration between, I guess, what you could call the tangible machines on the street with the cellular technology, the mobile technology?
That is correct. And this is the first time that we've had this flexibility, so I'm super excited about it. You do obviously have to have the app on your phone,
Okay.
but if you decide to pay at a pay station and you have the app on your phone, because you're putting in that license plate number and that's tied to your account, it will send you push notifications to let you know when your time is about to expire, even though you purchased it at a pay station, or you can extend that time from the app, even though you bought your initial session at the pay station.
Okay, very, very interesting. Thank you very much. Thanks for making this presentation. Ms. Myers, I see you have your light on.
Right, thank you. I hope you can hear me. I have two masks on. So I think this is the best improvement I've seen ever for parking in the city of Pensacola. I like the fact that you can locate handicap parking. I wanted to ask two questions. One, when there are special festivals and there's reserved handicap parking at a location, for instance, the seafood festival would be an example where you have reserved handicap parking over at Bartram Park, I believe. Would that show up on the app?
So we are working on the event portion of this and how do you make reservations. Fortunately, we haven't had a lot of events going on right now, so
Right.
we're able to test that, and it is in beta testing. And that is one of the functionalities that we're hoping we can integrate. So my answer is, I don't have a 100% answer yet, but I can tell you that's what we're working toward, is to make sure that if there's handicap accessible parking at an event, and there's 10 spaces at that event, that those 10 spaces are identified, and as they become used, a license plate is associated in that zone with a handicap, that it'll show that, now there's only 5, and now there's no more left here, so you need to go here, so that it can help you find parking wherever.
Okay, that's fantastic. The other thing, and I should know the answer to this, but I don't. A person with a handicap parking permit, they're able to park in any parking space without paying, right?
That is correct.
As long as
it's city
The
owned.
city,
Yes.
the city space.
yeah, as long as they are showing their handicap parking permit, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Ms. Myers. I see one more light, and it is the star of that short film we saw, and also our mayor, Mayor Robinson.
I just want to say the only time I get to drive in a BMW SUV is when I'm filming a commercial, so that was not my car. Second is Lisa. I think Lisa's doing a great job on working on this transition, and I think it is going well. It's not going without problems. We obviously know we've had a few people talk to us about inability to get the app and some of the other bugs that are in it. I just want to say, Lisa, I think you are trying to work with getting with retailers and getting some feedback from them and their customers, so that we can make it better all the time. We're in that process of doing that communication as well.
Absolutely. And we hope that communication never stops and our improvements never stop. But obviously, whenever you launch a new product, especially when there's technology behind it, you don't find all the bugs until you roll it out and you have 4,000 people using it, and then every little bug pops up. But yes, we are working through it with all of the merchants, all of the parkers. I'm on calls about 3 or 4 hours every day, going through the issues that people are finding and us trying to get those resolved. So yes.
I'm finding fewer and fewer people that aren't able to pull up the app. I know that was when we first started, we had some glitches, but I'm hearing less and less of that. So just kind of wanted to get your feedback and at least be able to inform the council.
Yes, we are getting fewer calls on the app itself. We are seeing, like I said, an increase in the number of people downloading the app, so that's always encouraging to us. We are still suffering through some permit issues, just because our old permit system was more of a round system, and now we're trying to fit that round peg into a square hole, and we're having to go through every single permit, one by one, every tag associated with that permit, to make sure that the information is correct. But I believe from the app perspective, from just your regular day users that maybe come down here and do a little shopping and then leave, those calls seem to be going off, and then we're focusing on the permit. So hopefully within the next 30 days, those permit calls will go off as well, and we can just focus on our growth and improvements moving forward.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Hill?
I was just wondering, are you still going to have the 2-hour parking for free over like on Jefferson and other places?
So currently there is still 2-hour free parking. I will tell you, because the new council, and some of you may have heard me say this before, 2-hour free parking eliminates the ability for us to capture any of that analytical data, which leaves us blinded by what's going on in those areas and being able to properly manage it. So I'm sure that will come back before this council at some point, not to necessarily do away with the 2-hour parking, but to modify it so that you do have to start a session so we can see what's going on in those areas. But right now, we have not made any changes to the 2-hour zones, but that is something that may come before council at a future date.
So if you have the app, you can't ask the app, where's the free parking?
The app doesn't really show where free parking is at, but our website does.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank
Here.
you. Mayor Robinson?
Just briefly on that, and Lisa, we do obviously have a significant amount of free parking on Spring Street, and there's no intention to change that at any time right now, to do anything different. But it is free. It's not in any way, I mean, I know we're not getting data from it, but there's a lot of space there, and anybody's welcome to park there.
Yeah, I think we ran the numbers, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but about 30 or 40%, was that correct? Or was it a little higher of all of the city parking is either 2-hour timed or free completely?
It was over 30%. And right now, every parking session that starts with an app is free for your first 30 minutes. Every session.
Every session.
That's great.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, in Spring, what is that? That's just 2 blocks over from Palafox, right?
Yeah.
Right there in the heart of it
Again,
all.
I try to remind everybody, you're welcome, you may have to walk a little further, but you don't have to pay. And again, that's kind of the deal is if you can pay if you want to be right where something is, but if you want to walk, we're going to give you an option.
There we go. 2 blocks, not too far to walk. All right, well, thank you very much, Karen Ferretti, Lisa, for that presentation. That was great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move to the review of consent agenda items. Item number 2 is 20-00778, 2021 City Council meeting schedule. I don't see any lights there. Let's move to number 3, 20-00792, assignment of council members to external boards, commissions, and authorities for council term 2020 to 2022. And with these, I'll always try to just pause a little bit if you have comments to make or questions to add.
I do, but I'm trying to find
I
it.
thought I
because
said-
I looked somewhere, and now I can't find the request.
It should be in the bottom right there,
Yeah.
request.
Where did I go?
There's a little,
Hold on, you want to go back to this screen.
There you go, thank you so much.
Okay, now you
Okay,
go.
okay, now I can request it.
There we are. I see your light, Ms. Breyer.
Okay, so, the TPA, it's during the day, and most of us, or at least 4 of us, I believe, work during the day. And so we have put in a request to consider moving that to a 3:30 time period as well, just to know. I mean, I want to be a part of all of that. I just want to see if we can move some of these meetings to the afternoon potentially. So I have requested that, we're looking at that, and just wanted to let you guys know that I have asked for that. So if that's a conflict for other people.
That's great. That's good to hear. That would be easier for me as well as one of those.
Yeah, I think that, David Forte told me that there has been a lot of requests to move to an afternoon for the public and for other members to be able to attend more, so maybe to a 3:30 time period like this or something of that nature. So I did request it, and I just want to say if that's an issue, I can withdraw that request, but I would not be able to attend.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Shoot. Well, let me ask this, and this may be a question for staff, or it may be can't be answered now, but we can get an answer before Thursday. If that's, will we have an idea whether the TPO meetings would be able to be moved by Thursday before we make assignments, or?
We'll certainly ask and find out. I don't know right now, but we'll ask and find out.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't think we will know by Thursday.
Okay.
But,
And I guess it's not that, if it ends up staying and we need to
right.
juggle
We can-
assignments.
We can adjust it, and just so everybody knows, technically, all council members are members of the TPO. 5 are assigned to it, the others are alternates,
Okay.
if they were ever needed. But we can adjust it.
Okay. But the alternate status doesn't have the same sunshine restrictions as primary member?
That's my understanding.
Okay, all right. All right.
Don't we have a meeting, TPO meeting this week or next week? One coming up?
I think there's not a proper TPO meeting. I think January is the next proper TPO meeting. There's some sort of informational workshop, I believe.
So I'm sure they can't vote on it till then.
Right, right. Was that all your, I see your lights
Yeah.
on there. That was it, Ms. Hill?
Mhm.
Okay, Mayor Robinson?
Yes, on TPO, that meeting has fluctuated. The challenge with TPO is it's not just the city of Pensacola. It's not even just the city of Escambia County. It's 2 cities in Santa Rosa County, and Escambia County. So, but it has, I was on that for a while when I was on the commission. But it has fluctuated at different times. I think every time a new board starts like this after an election is a good time to have that discussion, and it probably will go on at this meeting, but it may be good for those, Councilwoman Hill and those that do attend, to ask the TPO and see if we can get a vote about a changed meeting time. That would probably be the best thing to do, but it is a little, it's not just us. We don't get to set that. It's there are multiple other jurisdictions, and they obviously have to make their time. And you also you have Baldwin County and somebody up from Orange Beach. So I mean, there's a lot of different jurisdictions on there.
All right. All right. Let's move to item 4, 20-00531, the interlocal agreement between the City of Pensacola, Florida and West Florida Historic Preservation Incorporated for parking management of the WFHPI-UWF Tarragona parking lot. Item 5, 20-00560, change order, bid number 19-019, 12th Avenue and Cross Street HMGP Stormwater Improvement Project. All right, that will bring us to our regular agenda items. Item 6, 20-00771, Pensacola Professional Firefighters International Association of Firefighters, IAFF Local 707 Collective Bargaining Agreement. Ms. Myers.
Well, I was just wondering if we could maybe get a 2 or 3 sentence summary of basically the highlights in this. I mean, I know it's summarized here, but it's still rather lengthy, but just the highlights. And I notice there's a supplemental budget resolution, right? So if we could just get that information, I guess we could wait till Thursday night.
Well, we can give it to you now, let you
Oh,
know.
okay.
You want to go, Keith?
I don't have it on top of my head.
Oh, okay.
I will get that information to you. There's probably 4 or 5 key points to the agreement, relative to the last 3 years. And everyone was very satisfied with it. We were, the fire union was also very satisfied with it. There were some benefit improvements for them. We received some, what we wanted was to be able to instill recruitment and in the fire department, and also improve their capabilities in terms of their medical certifications for response to be basic life certified, and they agreed to that. So everybody's very happy with it, and I can get you probably 5 bullet points that will
Okay.
summarize the entire thing.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I will say that it ran over, obviously, we're not able, we agreed to everything at the end of September, and we told them they either need to agree to it or then, or we would not be able to backdate. And I think that's the reason we're having the issue of the supplemental budget we won't approve it until today, but we did agree on salary changes back to this October 1st, because they agreed to it before September 30th. So that was simply an agreement that was made in the negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right. That'll take us to, and we are getting some bleed over on the Teams meeting. Please mute if you're not already. All right, item 7, 2020-62, supplemental budget resolution number 2020-62, Pensacola Professional Firefighters International Association of Firefighters, the IAFF, Local 707 Collective Bargaining Agreement. All right. And then the last one here pertaining to that, 8, 49-20, proposed ordinance number 49-20, amending section 9-6-26 of the Code of the City of Pensacola, Florida, firefighters deferred compensation prohibiting future contributions. All right. Number 9, 20-00788, extension of ordinance number 15-20, requiring the mandatory wearing of face coverings in businesses within the city limits. Item 10, 2020-58, supplemental budget resolution number 2020-58, contracts payable. Yes, Ms. Hill?
I would just like a kind of a little summary of why we have this on here.
Okay, sure. Man, you're good, Ms.
I
LaVoy.
figured she was
No,
here.
you're good, yeah. Don't run away. No, keep coming, keep coming.
Come on down.
Playing games with us, our emotions.
Sorry about that. Council President, council members, I'm Amy LaVoy. I'm the Finance Director for the City of Pensacola. And this is a little bit of an unusual budget amendment. At the beginning of the year, we carry forward all of the money associated with ongoing projects for which there's a purchase order and spending. We carry it all forward. Now, in certain situations, after the end of the year or during year-end processes, we find out that some of the expenses associated with this project were probably legitimately incurred in the previous fiscal year. So all we are doing is reducing the budget this year for what we accrued into last year. That's the only thing this budget amendment does, is accounting entries in that
Okay.
way.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaVoy. All right. That'll bring us to 11, 2020-59, supplemental budget resolution number 2020-59, fiscal year 2021 non-encumbered carryover budget resolution. And Ms. LaVoy knew there was going to be questions. She stayed right there.
So I'm going to go over this a little more in the finance presentation in the quarterly report, but there's been some questions in the previous years about what we do with the remaining monies at the end of the fiscal year. So this budget amendment is actually carrying forward certain money for certain projects that either are ongoing but didn't have purchase orders associated with them, or they're new appropriations that we're asking the council to make. And these are monies that are left over from previous years, otherwise known as our fund balance. And I can certainly go over any of them if you have any questions. They're listed. I apologize for doing this in person, but Teams was a little glitchy this morning during the mayor's press conference, so
Yes.
I wanted to do this in person, but I can go over any of them if you like.
All right. I don't see any additional questions. All right, thank you, Mr. Boyd. That'll take us to 1245-20. Proposed ordinance number 45-20, request for future land use map amendment for 4406 North Davis Highway. And that is a second reading. All right, number 13, 46-20, proposed ordinance number 46-20, request for zoning map amendment for 4406 North Davis Highway. Another second reading. And number 14, 48-20, proposed ordinance number 48-20, creating section 6-3-21 of the Code of the City of Pensacola related to restricting development at Hitzman Optimus Park. And I see a light there, Ms. Myers.
Yes. I just wanted to alert the council that I will be bringing an amendment, a suggested amendment to you on Thursday. I've given you a copy of it. And basically, I did not support this ordinance because I did not feel that it was protective enough of the trees that are there at Hitzman Park. So what I have given you, and I hope the reason I'm giving it to you in advance is so that you'll have time to read it and understand what I'm going to bring forward to you Thursday night. And so I think that we need this kind of specificity in that ordinance, given what has gone on, especially recently, with the cutting of trees there. So I think the primary objective of the ordinance is to protect the trees at Hitzman Park. And I'm not comfortable with the language in the present ordinance, and I would like more specificity. So basically, I've given you all a copy of the amendment to read before Thursday night.
Okay, and that's appreciated, so we have
Thank
time
you.
to review it. Yeah, thank you. All right, Mayor Robinson.
I simply, on the last two sentences of paragraph 2, one is, I certainly think there's no problem with doing it's easy to do a tree survey and have all the information on the existing trees. To go do one every January just simply takes money out of our budget that we would have for dealing with replanting of trees. I think the more important part would be if we plant any or take any out in the year, that we make changes to the overall part. And the only time we would take one down is we would know it would be either something like a hurricane, a natural disaster, disease, or some other threat of life. So I think it's pretty clear both in the amendment and in the ordinance of what's allowed. And I think you should have very few, if any, removal. The bigger thing would be, I think, the opportunity for us to plant some new trees in there with the tree ordinance. I've talked to Brian about planting some trees in there. Obviously, we're going to have some trees along the south side of the property where it backs up to the neighborhoods. So, the only thing I think is, of course, that's out of this zone, but I think, there will be a number of trees planted there. The only thing I see is the issue of doing a tree survey every single year. They don't really move, so I think that's going to be the issue that I would see. And what do you want to do, and how do you spend your money on your tree with your tree fund?
Understood. One moment. I'm following the line here, and I don't want us to get into spoiler alert territory here, where we're shooting all our bullets that we would shoot on Thursday. This is on the regular agenda item, so we can have the discussions about the merits of it. I appreciate having the revision here to be able to review, so I know the discussion points we'll have on Thursday, but I don't want to try it today. Ms. Wolf, I saw your light.
Thank you, President and council members. I'm not exactly sure what is being envisioned as far as what you want from the city attorney's office for Thursday. Right now, we have an ordinance that's being presented on second reading, and so if it was adopted as is on Thursday, then it would be adopted and it would be done. If amendments are being presented on Thursday, consistent with what Councilwoman Myers has presented, that's not going to be before you on Thursday in a format and in a ready to be adopted sort of form. So I'm not exactly sure how you want to proceed at this point. If there's some sort of consensus or straw vote or head nodding, something. I can certainly take this language and work with Councilwoman Myers on trying to create amendments to the ordinance that's now before you, and see what can come up with before Thursday night. I've already written down my notes, my questions, my concerns about some of this language, or we can have a discussion Thursday night about that, and then if there are going to be revisions to the ordinance from what's currently on the agenda, then it can come back before council in January for consideration. I just kind of need some direction at this point, however.
Okay, I hear exactly what you're saying. Ms. Bear, you haven't spoken yet on the issue, and it's obviously within your district. I'd like to hear what you have to
Well,
say.
I think that there has to be some kind of count, some kind of yearly count is not a bad idea, even if it is only adding in what has been taken down or via storm or what have you within that time period. But we are in a situation where we were given a list of how many trees were coming down, and 3 weeks ago another 20 came down, and we were informed by a director that they always knew it would be more, they just didn't feel like they needed to tell us it would be more prior to that. And so this kind of protection is exactly what the neighborhood is looking for. They want not just protection of the trees, but protection of encroachment on properties. So the protection of these trees also, stops that encroachment and mitigates the sound. That whole buffer where the mayor has said we're going to replant trees, you have to remember we just took down on that back buffer probably 50 trees. So yes, we're putting trees back, but we just made a really loud and noisy area. So I put this on my Facebook page today, the ordinance that was being read tonight, and asked for some public input. And their biggest concern was there wasn't a protection like this. And so I do think personally within my district would look to have something like this. My straw or nod would be absolutely to work on the language to protect the rest of this park and these trees. Just last week, there was this massive, the most beautiful live oak heritage tree in there with this huge swooping limb, and literally they just hacked it. They just hacked it off in part. They left a dead limb coming out that will never do anything, and it just puts an incredible weight and damage on that tree. So more protection, I think more is better here. I appreciate tremendously that you're overlooking my district with such care, and I would like to see us move forward with some kind of amendment such as this.
Ms. Myers, you've got your light on.
Yes, I just want to talk about the procedural issues that the city attorney raised. I've been on council for 10 years. We've always made motions to amend ordinances on first reading, on second reading, and that is appropriate. It's done all the time. And so I did want to address the concern of the mayor and offer the mayor the opportunity what I'm presenting here is what I think needs to be done. But if you feel administratively that we can accomplish this and it needs to be tweaked, then I'm willing to look at that on Thursday night. I think more importantly, the representative for District 1, I would prefer that maybe the mayor and Councilwoman Breyer get together and work this out. It's her district. And I think that what I'm proposing expresses her desire and the desire of many of the residents over there. But it's not like I'm wedded to this just because I've put it on the table. So I'm just offering the mayor the opportunity and saying, I hear what you're saying, and what I just want is all the trees to be accounted for, a baseline, basically. And how you administratively want to accomplish that, I'm certainly open to that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Mayor Robinson, you'd like to respond?
Councilman Myers, as I said, I have no problem in paragraph 2, the in January. From there, if that part was struck out and administratively, we were allowed to simply, I think, bring in any additions or deletions that happened during the year rather than spending money on a tree survey. I have no problem doing the baseline, and I agree with you 100% on the rest of it. The other part, the trees only be removed. You already say in here that no tree should be removed earlier, and it's in the ordinance for the same thing. I just thought it was very duplicative, and so I felt those last 2 sentences could be removed, and we could still say the same exact thing that's in there.
That's fine with me as long as it's okay with the District 1 council representative.
All right, and I guess the rest of us will get a vote on it too. Ms. Wolf, since there was a legal element there, I saw you light up there.
Thank you. There's still language in here that I have concerns about, the language, not the concept, but the language. And so if there's an interest in moving forward, and I'm not asking for a vote, but if there's an interest in moving forward, we've already got version 1. Everyone's got
Right.
that. We can work, my suggestion would be that either myself or someone else from my office work with Councilwoman Breyer or Councilwoman Myers. I mean, obviously, we can't have a meeting together, but one or the other, and the member from staff that the mayor and Mr. Wilkins would like us to work with, and keeping the concept, tweaking the language, see what we can come up with to present on Thursday night, if that's acceptable.
That's fine with me. I'm just putting the idea out here. Whatever language or format you want to put it in to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish is fine with me.
Then what I will do is I'll move forward with that direction and get a meeting scheduled. And if it's all right with the president, is we will keep version 1 on the agenda, and we will have version 2, and then it can be addressed Thursday night as to which version you're voting on, or how you want to proceed through that, and I can work with Mr. Prayer on that.
At this point, I've not had a chance to review the amendments. I appreciate the opportunity to have a few days to review them before we vote, but I wouldn't feel comfortable sliding it ahead of what we got, because I'm just now seeing the letters. But Ms. Hill, you've been patiently waiting.
I just want to nod my head, make sure our attorney is watching, and I would prefer that you get a chance to put input into whatever they come up with. I think that's a great suggestion, and I hope you can follow through on that.
All right, Ms. Pereira.
And that's it. I agree with all that. That's what I was going to say. I would love to, I can do it as soon as you can, Ms. Wolf. And once again, I really appreciate the opportunity to protect the rest of this part. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly not lost on me how I'm glad this held over for the second vote for you to get to
Me too.
be a part of it. So I know that's a special thing for you. So, all right. That brings us to the end of the regular agenda items. We have some discussion items. Let's start with the first one here. Item 1520-00779 ST Engineering Aerospace Hiring Demographics. Ms. Councilwoman Myers, you're the sponsor there.
Right, thank you. Well, the first thing that I ask be given to the new council members, or for the benefit of the new council members, is I ask for a summary of the sources of funding for ST Engineering. And so that has been provided to me and to you by our council financial analyst. But my concern is wanting to know the demographics of who we're hiring, how many people have we hired, or how many have they hired, how many, what are the zip codes? That gives us some kind of idea if they live in the city, in the county, in this geographical area. But more importantly, how many women have been hired, and how many minorities have been hired. So that was what I was hoping to get information about. The last report we got was very impressive, I thought. It showed, I liked the zip code numbers that were reflected in the report. So I like to get an update every now and then because I think the public wants it, I want it, I think the council wants it. We need to make sure, you know, that we're reaching underserved populations. So anyway, that was what I wanted to have a discussion about, and I assumed that the mayor has some information that would be helpful on this subject.
We have people from ST. I see Bill and his team, and I see some people from the airport back there as well. Would you like to hear from them and have them at least come forward and present? So yes, Bill, if y'all please come forward.
Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bill Hafner. I'm Chief Integration Officer for BT Mobile Aerospace on the Project Titan. And this is Sarah Kaiser. She heads up our Workforce Development and Human Resources section. I asked Sarah to come along today to answer your questions because she's closest to the subject matter.
Right. Thank you.
Sarah?
You might need Sarah to come to the mic. Thank you.
All right. So I'm happy to answer questions, or I can simply go through what our current demographics are.
Okay, if you could.
I think we could do the demographics, just like the report you sent them, just so the public gets a chance to hear.
Okay. All right, so the last report that we sent over showed a hiring of 178 active employees at the time. 11% of those are female. The balance are male. In terms of race, we are showing 12% African American, 2% Asian, 4% Hispanic, 2% Indian, 1% Native Hawaiian, 2% two or more races, 56% white, and 22% are not identified. In terms of military status, if you're interested in that, we are showing various sources, 13% coming from the U.S. Air Force, 7% coming from the U.S. Army, 1% coming from the U.S. Coast Guard, 3% from the Marine Corps, 8% from the U.S. Navy, and the 67% are not identified.
Sarah, I know that, I mean, I know that the numbers, and I appreciate what Councilwoman Myers is talking about in terms of gender, although historically this has been a generally a male, a more male-dominated industry. But I know what you have. I know that you just gave scholarships, and there were 4 of them, and one of them was a woman, so that's 25%. I mean, I know there's an effort that you're making to get women involved in this industry, although it has not traditionally had as many women in it.
Sure. Certainly, the lack of mechanics, female mechanics in general, the shortage of manpower in aviation has certainly driven a stronger minority and female recruitment for us. Mr. Mayor, you're correct. We did just issue 4 scholarships. 2 are specifically designated for females. We did have 1 filled this year. The other was not, we did not have an applicant for the other, but we are driving to push females and young women into aviation by putting up both of those scholarships for them.
Excellent, thank you. I got a list here. Ms. Myers, you were lit up first.
Okay, well, I want to thank ST Engineering for always being so available and transparent and willing to come down here and give us information. And you know how important this issue is to us. So I would just, like to encourage you to, make the best effort, and I know you are making efforts, to recruit women and minorities. And I know that this is important to ST Engineering because the first time I brought it up at City Council some years ago, the next day I got a call from a very high-level person with ST Engineering and said, listen, we heard you last night. We were listening to the City Council meeting, and we've had a really difficult time recruiting women. Can you give us some suggestions? And so I know that, with recruiting women, because it's an all, male, traditionally a type of work, it can be a little more difficult. But I would love to see the numbers going up, and I do appreciate the scholarships that you've given to women. And so this project means a lot to people in this area. We're very excited about developing this workforce. So I just think it's a great opportunity for us to get off on the right footing and do some things that we haven't done very well in the past as a city. So I'm happy that with the information that you've given us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hill?
Well, one of the things that we're also concerned about is local hiring, and I was wondering, do you have statistics on what percentage of your force is local?
Sure. Last time that I reviewed this, 86% of it was local from the state of Florida, and Pensacola specifically, with a few outliers outside of the city of Pensacola, but certainly in Florida. Very few, or rather the balance coming out of Alabama, and we had a very small percentage with a home address in Georgia, but it was 1 or 2 individuals. So majority of the workforce, definitely more than the majority coming to.
I know we've had an emphasis on training as well, and there was an effort to get some funding for the Board of Education, or for the schools district, and I don't know how that, it didn't sound too positive the last time I read about it, but have you been able to resolve having someone locally educate our kids?
So, I mean, we have moved full force with our in-house training program for sure. We currently are on schedule to hire an additional 30 students in Pensacola in January. We have 30 under the training program currently in Pensacola. But we certainly have partnered with other local education here to recruit straight out or to develop training programs within Georgetown Technical College. It's a large partner of ours, working with them right now to create an apprenticeship program that will allow their students to work for us in the evening while they attend school during the day. We certainly have our pipelines going into the high schools and the middle schools, where we are reaching out to work with the students and just introduce aviation. We spoke about women in aviation, just kind of reinventing aviation to young women so that they understand that it is a viable career. So we're working with the local schools to make sure that we get in there and do that. But yes, we definitely have built out those training programs and those partnerships.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Breer?
Yes, so the 4 scholarships are in-house? That's my first question.
Yes, they are ST Engineering sponsored scholarships.
Okay, and then of the military, I have to admit I wasn't paying good attention at the beginning. Did you say that was of the military you were giving the statistics within? So what percentage of employees were military?
So that's the military veterans that are employed with us and the breakdown of the military.
Okay, so that's overall of all 178. So when you said 7%, whatever,
Correct.
that was of all 178. Okay, and my last question is the average income of these 178.
Okay, 158, I believe, was the last one that somewhere in there that I reported in. And I apologize for not having that with me, but then recently I did review this for another meeting and we had actually went up, so we were probably pushing more like 45.
Do we have a low and high?
I can certainly provide a range. I don't have it with me right now, but
Okay.
I can certainly provide a range.
Thanks.
All
That's
right.
it.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you both very much for coming down. Thank you for those training programs. Look forward to seeing all the local young people recruited and trained and equipped to go forth and contribute here in our local community.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bill and Sarah, thank you very much.
All right. That'll take us to our next discussion item, 20-00719, update on monument located at Florida Square, formerly known as Lee Square, removal, storage, and future plan. I believe, Ms. Myers, this is the second of your discussion items. Did you have a presentation you want to make?
No, it's just that I've had a number of people ask me about what's going to happen to the monument.
Okay, and I've had the same thing.
And so I thought, well, let's just put it on, on the agenda for discussion. I think that some people thought it was going to a cemetery, in the form that it was up on Lee Square. So that was one of the questions about that particular part of the monument. And I also wanted to know about any plans for the steps. Have they been removed or are they going to stay?
Okay, I think, Merritt, you had a...
The steps have been removed. Yeah.
Okay.
The steps have been removed. So the monument has totally been removed. If you looked up there, there still is the brick area around it. It has been totally removed, and I think we're finished. We should have had all the stuff. It should have been removed, all the fences and everything else.
That's
Okay.
removed.
Okay. Right around Thanksgiving, it was still up, so I wasn't sure if it had. I haven't gone by there just recently to see it, but it should be. It's all down. There's a park light there. I mean, we can certainly talk about at some point. If there are things that people want to talk about. But I think overall, I think there was so much discussion about it, it was hard to get anything productively done until it was removed. There are many people who've contacted us that have asked about the monument, more so than probably were talking about it beforehand because they didn't really want it to come down. But now that it's come down, there are more people expressing interest. My feeling to them was let some things, some dust settle, and we'll pick this back up at the first of the year. I expect to have something come back to y'all probably February, and I'll be able to bring something back. But I think for a lot of things, there were issues. I don't think the monument, there was a desire to have the monument in its current stand there. I know Councilwoman Hill expressed significant concern about the height with the pillar associated with it. So, I mean, there have been a number of things we've looked at. I still think St. John's is a viable option for a portion of it, and there are some other things that we're looking at. But there have also now become people who were not expressing interest before, who now have expressed interest because now that it's come down, their ultimate position was they didn't want to come down. But now that it's come down, there are other people asking about it. My goal is to bring you some ideas after the first of the year. I think it's prudent to let some dust settle from this and then come back. And I think people are in a different frame of mind that they were at one point and where they are going forward. So I think we can certainly look at that. The offer still stands from St. John's, but there are some concerns. I know that Councilwoman Hill has expressed that the entirety of the statue as it was too tall for what the setting would be at St. John's. So, but there's still things that can be done there. My whole goal was to, we certainly took diligent care in the removal of it. It is being stored inside, so there's not any problems with it while it's in its current status. And if it needs to be re-erected somewhere else, we certainly will work to do that. And I think we can have productive conversations about it, but I do think there was probably a little bit more emotion that we just need some time to get past, and then hopefully we can have some productive discussions about what happens going forward. And my goal is to bring something to you in February.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Mayor. As far as the decommissioning, though, that was all successful and went to plan. The contractors executed.
Yeah. And I mean,
Best case
the
scenario.
cannons were also removed. Those actually went to UWF, wanted those. We did take all the cannons to UWF. In fact, I don't believe any of the cannons were actually Civil War. They were actually earlier Revolutionary War at that point. Two of them were actually Marine. Two of them were, and I simply told UWF it's a package deal. You take either, if you want two, you need four or none. So they took four, and we got rid of those at least. I think they're going to put them some places they have designed for. So that kind of that happens as well. I can certainly catch up with Derek on what has happened with the steps, but they have been replaced and removed, and all of those are they're all at the port this particular time, and we can discuss in February what we do next.
All right, Ms. Myers, I see your light.
Yeah, just about the steps, like an update in February about the steps, because I thought that they were paid by the Daughters of the Confederacy. And so I don't know if you've talked to that organization or any of the organizations that have been keeping the park up and the monument and steps. But I would like to see what they would want to do with the steps, if they want them back or what.
I mean, certainly the city can make decisions. My understanding from the attorney is those were given to the city. They've been upkept by the city, and so I mean, the park has certainly been upkept by the city. So I don't know of any necessary provision one way or the other. But I mean, the council can always surplus positions and give that if that's what the council wishes. But we certainly can come forward. No one has contacted us directly about that. Many people have contacted us about the statue and the monument. So, I mean, we certainly can work through those.
Madam Attorney, your posture says you.
Thank you, President. I'm not sure I really have anything to add. My recollection from the memorandum concerning the monument that was prepared by staff was that the steps were added relatively recently. I mean, not like, within the last several decades as opposed to 100 years ago. But I don't recall who they belong to, and I don't recall them being really any issue in the litigation either.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we'll look forward to that in February. That brings us to 1720-00711, enforcement of noise ordinance and statutes. Ms. Myers.
Well, this is a big issue, is noise. Primarily coming from loud mufflers, modified mufflers. A lot of people are complaining about it. I don't know how people live on certain streets like 9th Avenue, Davis Highway. Even though my house is not on Davis Highway or Creighton Road or Langley, I am not able to use any of the 3 bedrooms I have. So I have literally moved my bedroom to a room in the middle of the house with no windows, and I can still hear the mufflers. And so I have talked to Chief Leiter over the last 3 or 4 years. It does not seem to be something that's the PPD is enforcing unless recently, but the mufflers on these cars are modified mufflers. That's illegal to modify a muffler under Florida law. They are just, it's just constant around Sacred Heart Hospital. And I just, something's got to be done. It's just, I don't know how people live on 9th Avenue, but what I wanted to do is to somehow, I've been looking at what other cities are doing about noise from cars, from these mufflers, and I gave council, and I don't know if the city attorney got a copy of the, all this is a reference because it was too voluminous to have ask our council executive to print it. But I've been doing a lot of research and looking at what other cities in Florida are doing about noise from cars and mufflers. And so I looked at Coral Gable, and I will tell you, I really like that city. I've never been there, but just reading their quality of life ordinances, I said, hey, if I leave Pensacola, I'm going to Coral Gables because these people are really serious about protecting the quality of life of their citizens. So what I gave council is, and you can go to Muni Code. If you don't know how to use Muni Code, I'm sure Mr. Crayer will help you do it. But what I've given you is just a copy of a reference to their noise ordinance. And I would really like to, and we've talked about this for years on council, is how we can improve our noise ordinance when it comes to automobiles, which I know is a big concern downtown. And we've just never done it. So I think, now is the time to do it. The council has money we can hire our own, we don't have to hire an attorney, but I had suggested maybe to Don that we hire somebody who knows how to research ordinances, because it's very time consuming for me to do this. And so that's why I'm bringing this up, not to put anybody on the spot. I know what what ordinances we have. Why I'm bringing this up is for us to think about dealing with noise all over the city and coming up with a better ordinance that is more workable than what we have here. And that we apply it throughout the entire city and not just to people who live downtown. So that's why I'm bringing this up. It's just a way to kind of kickstart this issue. Yeah, and really work on it this time and not just discuss it as we have in the past on council and then move on.
What would be helpful to you then? Well, it sounds like you're gonna bring something in the future is what it sounds like you're saying there. Is there some sort of feedback you're asking from us then?
I'd like to have a workshop and look at what other jurisdictions are doing and maybe bring somebody in who could help us, come up with some workable solutions.
Well, and that's something, I think my understanding of council rules and procedures, you could bring an item for a workshop with whoever support, and then council could have a majority vote for that workshop.
Okay.
That's certainly something you could bring forward, for sure.
Okay, well, I'll talk to Mr. Crayer about that. And anyway, that's why I brought this up, because it's just one of the very important issues we need to finally address after all these years of talking about it on council and then never going anywhere with it.
Understood. All right. Mayor Robinson.
Yes. I think some of it is effective ordinances, yes, but I think the other part is how do you enforce it? And I think that becomes very difficult. It is easier to enforce the muffler noise issue in an area like downtown where you have a confined space and individuals aren't really going that fast. But if somebody is running down 9th Avenue or Davis Highway, by the time you call a police officer and get them to show up and figure out the car is long gone. There's no chance we're catching anybody. So if the idea is we want to become the enforcement mechanism, either through code enforcement or police, you're talking about a considerable number of people that you've got to hire to be all over the place. We don't have enough police to do just traffic signals. I just want to think about the practicality of what we're asking for and how you do it. The challenge of why we've been able to do some things in downtown relative to noise is because of the ease of the enforcement and the trackability and what you can do in a very small confined area. When you're talking about 12th Avenue and I live 2 houses from Summit. Every now and then I'll hear somebody with a loud muffler go down Summit. But by the time I can call, get somebody there, there's no idea where they are or how they enforce it. So I think some of which is not just the ordinance, it's how you enforce it. And I think in a compact where you have a significant number of people, we were able to address it. Chief Leiter and the police were able to address it in downtown and make a dent. We were able to issue citations. My problem is we apply that to the rest of the city, it's a lot harder to know when and where that's going to happen and where that car is going to make it there. That's the part that makes it more difficult. It's just like we don't have enough people to check up on street lights and when people run lights. To me, I think that's, if I was going to look at something, I would say that's more impactful to quality of life and the things that we're dealing with So I want us to be realistic about what we're going to do with our ordinance. You can have the best ordinance in the world, and if it's still not an easy issue to enforce, that's what's going to be a challenge.
All right, Ms. Breer.
Just one question. Do you know why or whether other cities in Florida still have inspections on vehicles? So, I mean, because that would be the easiest way. Remember when we used to have to get your tag, you had to go through the inspection location? And even when I moved to Jacksonville, I had to come back to Escambia because I hadn't switched my tag there. And just a curiosity, because that would be so easy. Now it's too loud, you don't get your tag.
The state used to do that, they no longer,
Is that nowhere in the
require
state?
that.
Because it was
Correct.
county, I thought.
Yes, you did it by county, but
Okay.
it was a state requirement. It's just like all of your things right now, you are required to go get your license and your tag from Scott Lunsford.
Right.
But it's all the ruling is done not by a city, it's
Right,
done by
right.
the state of
Okay.
Florida. The legislature changed that.
It was just a curiosity because that would be an easy way to
No,
address that.
I don't disagree. It's just the legislature changed that rule.
Okay.
Oh, Ms. Myers, I saw you.
Yeah,
pop back up.
well, I have to disagree with the mayor about the enforcement, especially on 9th Avenue. I am on 9th Avenue every morning around Sacred Heart and Cordova Mall. I am there every single night, 365 days a year, regardless of the weather, for my cats. And I know that there are police officers. 9th Avenue is very well patrolled by our police department. And you can stand there, I mean, those mufflers are non-stop. It's not one every now and then. It's constant, constant. It's unbelievable. And in front of a hospital. So I think that we have plenty of police officers there, and a lot of the people who have these muscle cars with the modified muscles, they're also going over the speed limit. It's not unusual to see drag racing there. And it seems like every time I'm on 9th Avenue, especially at night, our PPD has somebody pulled over. And so the PPD does a great job of monitoring 9th Avenue and that commercial core. I think if we just start raising the fine, if we make certain areas high fine areas, you take a hospital, for instance, schools, and we increase the fines in that primary commercial core around Sacred Heart, and we start, stopping some of these loud mufflers, cars, I think eventually people get the message, and they have been a problem for the city for a long time. They used to gather down here on Palafox Street. They got run off of out of downtown. They came over to and so, I think that one thing I'd like to know is how many PPD officers are on 9th Avenue from, say, Underwood to, just south of Publix. Because I think that we have officers over there every night. And they are stopping people. So I think in that area it would be pretty easy to do. That's just what that's my thinking, because these vehicles do have to stop at the lights. They will stop at lights. So most of the time.
I wonder if you and I guess you may have already, have you reached out to PPD on some of those questions you had there? I would think they have that information. Some of that area sound like exactly District 2 of 9th Avenue. I would think they'd have that sort of data for you.
Well, I haven't asked them for any data because I can see for myself. I'm there every night. And so I see them. They're very visible. So I have talked to Chief Leiter about this in the past, and so I just, it's just something that needs to be done. It just can't, continue to, the reason people are doing it is because they're never stopped and given tickets. I guess they're not stopped and given tickets.
Okay, I understand. It just, I'm trying to think what this body can do to address what you're defining there. You've defined a problem, and I don't know that legislatively there's anything we can do there, so I'm just trying to connect you with people who are taking care of operations in that arena. So if not...
I would like better ordinances for one thing, so I'm going to ask that we have a workshop and look at our ordinances and look at cities that really have good noise ordinances.
Okay.
And it should be applied uniformly in the city. Okay. So anyway.
All right. And there we go. That connects with what we're doing for sure. We'll keep an eye out for either an ordinance item or a workshop item. Thank you. That will bring us to 1820-00791, developing an ordinance to address traffic calming such as speed bumps and other measures. Right back at you, Ms. Myers. Back to you.
Okay, well, this has been an issue for long before I even got on council, but it's one that people, I would say it's the #1 complaint that I encounter when I go door to door when I'm campaigning is traffic calming. And so we do not have an ordinance that addresses traffic calming. I got into a situation where I have some heavy or fast traffic in front of the home of a child, severely disabled child, who lives just down the street from a park, and all his parents, who are also disabled, wanted to do was to have a safe street for his caregiver. They don't have a sidewalk to roll him in his wheelchair down to the park. The caregiver was afraid to do it because of she almost got hit by a car in front of their house. So when I approached Mayor Robinson about this, he told me that I had to comply with the council rules and procedures, and that I would need a petition, and the family would have to pay $150 to have their petition for a speed bump installed in front of their house if they got enough signatures. Well, they're not able to go out and get signatures. I would have to have done it. And I certainly wasn't going to ask them to pay $150. They don't have it. So I spent days researching council ordinances, council policies, council procedures. I found nothing about speed bumps or any $150 fee that you have to pay. Come to find out, it's not a council policy. It's a policy of Public Works. Well, how is anybody supposed to know that? It's not on the city website any place, but what it cost me was a heck of a lot of time, including our council executive who tried to find it. So, again, I started researching other jurisdictions who actually have ordinances that address traffic calming devices and standards for applying traffic calming devices and so forth, and a a scientific and objective way. And so again, it goes back to, I shouldn't have to do all of this research looking at other jurisdictions when the council has money to hire a person to do that. And our council executive, I'm not going to ask him to do it. He's really doing so much already, but it's something that we have plenty of money to do, and I think it's an issue that's very important to every council district, and I'm sure every one of you have constituents who complain about cut-through traffic in their neighborhoods. So having a speed bump shouldn't be the only way we calm traffic. And I know we are using a roundabout over on Langley, but that's very expensive to do. The traffic ways to calm traffic that's not expensive. I understand why the roundabout was put over there has to do with the volume of traffic going in and out of a facility over there. That's not the case on a lot of streets that have traffic calming issues. So I would like, again, to maybe have a workshop just on traffic calming and look at what other jurisdictions are doing. And look at, coming up with some better solutions for our neighborhoods.
Right. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Thanks. We do have a policy, and again, we've re-updated, and I'll have certainly Derek can get with y'all, and we can certainly have him here where he can explain and put forward, and Kareth put forward the whole policy that we have. Again, I think there's a policy because the road doesn't belong to just the individual who's on that road. It belongs to everyone that's using that road. And again, that's why you look at what you're going to do. You don't want to put speed bumps on a road and then simply create a traffic problem on another road. The engineering staff has to look at this holistically, what we can do. We certainly can do traffic calming. We are happy to do traffic calming, but we need to look at it holistically, and there needs to be consensus between the users of that area what needs to happen. Now, in the policy, if it's city property that is a park or something else that's on it, if the area is in front of a park and it is certainly our usage to do that, then it allows for, again, we're not able to put traffic speed bumps on major arterials, but on side streets, if it's on a park, it's city-owned property. If the council member in that area wants to do something, we will certainly look to do that. But I mean, traffic calming and speed bumps can be significantly divisive in a neighborhood, and I think there needs to be some kind of ability for everyone to agree on what's happening. It needs to be analyzed by engineering staff and figure out that we're not just simply displacing traffic from one road to create a problem on another road, and however they do it needs to be solved holistically. So I think the procedure and the policy that Derek and his team have come up with, and Kareth, is a good policy. I think that's what we need to keep working within, and keep working. And again, Councilwoman Myers, I did tell you on that one that, again, on that, if they were able to get the signatures, I was more than willing to find a way for the council, for the city to to pay that $150. So I had no problem in figuring a way to do that. But at the same time, I think the issue of not having some consensus upon everybody buying in on what it is, because that part of the road is not just for the people that it's in front of their house, it's the road, it's everybody's road, and everybody needs to kind of get a consensus together as to why if they want a speed bump or they don't want a speed bump. And again, I think we need to work with the policy that Derek has and allow that to be what we have in practice going forward. I'll be happy to get with you the changes we've made to it, and he can get with you and you can see the policy that is their department's policy. But I think you need a policy. I don't think you necessarily need an ordinance, and if things happen, you can fairly quickly change your policy and move in a different direction if we needed to. But again, that's my thought process. I mean, the ultimate management of it is going to be within the mayor's office to do, and therefore I think the policy is much more needed than than an ordinance. And I do think you need to look at what we currently have right now, and I'll be happy to get with Kareth and Derek to get with you all about what we currently have and how it would work for you. I know we were able to put a speed bump up there at Woodland Heights, and we were able to do that. So I mean, there are certainly things that we can do at parks, and we'll be happy to work with.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, the current policy is attached to this item,
Okay, that's the most current
the most current.
policy within city staff. Okay, thank
Which
you.
is also what you sent out, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Ms. Wolf, I saw you wanted to.
President and council members, I want to remind you of some information I provided back in May of 2020, and for those obviously who were not here in May of 2020, to let you know. Under the city charter, the city administrator is responsible for daily operations of the city, and further with the city code, there are two ordinances or two sections of the code that address traffic, 11-2-2 and 11-2-3. And those code sections give the authority to the traffic engineer or transportation engineer to address issues concerning traffic. Included in this is the maintenance of traffic control devices, parking areas, and other issues concerning traffic. And so I just want to call to your attention that this is addressed in the ordinances. Not to say that ordinances can't be revised, but to want to make sure that you are aware of that information.
Thank you. Ms. Myers?
The issue is one of the issues. You say that this is a department policy. Well, how do I know it's a department policy? Where do you find these policies? How does the public find them? How does the public know what they have to do to request, say, speed bumps or some type of traffic calming? Before this form of government, our neighborhood association had a very good working relationship with Public Works. That's how we were able to get the interactive speed things on Burgess Road. And the speed sign changed to 25 miles an hour. But there's nothing anywhere in writing in any code on the city's website that a person, can find this information. I can't ask what I don't know. So part of the issue is, what is the process and who knows about it? Whose process is it? And where is it published? That's why I like things to be in an ordinance, because somebody can go to a code and look something up. If it's just some department policy, well, it's their policy, but I don't know what it is. And I mean, the public doesn't know. They don't know to call Public Works, and I didn't know there was a $150 fee. I couldn't find that any place in anything I looked at. In the ordinance that you referred to, there's no reference to a $150 fee or petition. So that's the issue. One of the issues is, how do people know? And also, that policy doesn't address all of the traffic safety issues that are plaguing many neighborhoods. And so I think that we need a greater approach to addressing traffic issues. But you are right, Mayor Robinson, when you do something on one street, it's going to impact another street. And and it has to be done holistically. So part of the reason for paying the $150 is that Public Works hires, that pays Public Works for doing that type of analysis, is what I think the $150 fee is for.
It is for that in dealing with other parts of it, but it's a small fraction that goes into that, but it is something to at least compensate the city for all the time that happens in it. But we'll be more than happy to place, I think policies are there, and we have policies on there, but we can be very clear to place them right next to ordinances. So if you're only thinking about, I go to look at ordinances, you'll also see policies there. That's something fairly easy. If that's the discussion that came out of this and we can figure out how to make that happen, that's pretty easy. We can do that easily.
Well, that would be helpful, because when citizens ask me, we want a speed bump, or, traffic calming, how do we do that? And I have to say, well, I really don't know. I mean, so that would be very helpful if we could at least get something up on the city's website.
All right. Thank you. Good resolution there. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Myers. That'll bring us to 1920-00780, discussion of the process for obtaining streetlights and accessing funding. This one's you as well, Ms. Myers.
Well, I have a lot of needs for streetlights in District 2, and especially in low-income areas. So I know you said we were getting $15,000 each. That doesn't go very far for streetlights, and I'm just wondering, what kind of streetlights can you get for $15,000? And how do you get them? I mean, I've given a list of places, but I keep seeing more places that need streetlights.
Well, you submitted your list, and we will be happy. I've submitted that to Derek. Are there changes, modifications you want to make? We can absolutely look to do that. I think one of the ways that we solve that the best is by keeping our funds on our roads, which are city roads, and we work with the state on state roads to continue to work there and work through that process. But the money that we have given is for city roads. If you do that, we will be sure to work that. We're also coming up with the lighting policy. I know we've talked with Council President Moore about this, about dealing with the types of lights we have. We've kind of thought, hey, if we have a major street, it's a major arterial that moves traffic, those are ones that we need that 4,000 light on. If it's a more of a neighborhood situation, we would like the 3,000 light. And if it's an historic neighborhood, we will work with the parameters that are dealt with to make sure that it ensures that it's consistent with being a historic neighborhood. So that's kind of what we're doing. I know, Kareth, we're working on getting a lighting policy. But again, we can work through all that. We need your areas, and I think Ms. Myers has provided us several. If she has new alternatives, we will be happy to look at them. But when your 15,000 goes, that's what we'll have, and we'll put those up, and then we'll look and see what we can do next year. But everybody's got it right now. You are the only one that sent me in specifics of where you want things. I know Councilwoman Hill she submitted things for trees, so I got her trees, and I've got about all that I've got at this point. I have also asked everybody for 3 priorities in your that you want. I would love to get those by Thursday, so we can start working on those. So I need your 3 priorities, and also I need where you think you need trees and where you think you need lights, and we can start doing that.
Very good. Let me ask too, just for clarification, it's kind of a matter of process too, there's other times where we talk about our priorities. When you say 3 priorities, you're kind of speaking about specific projects, and I know there's other times where we try to set our priorities and you're more thinking 30,000 feet view.
Yeah.
These are specific projects.
These are more specific, correct.
I want this here. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And certainly,
Councilwoman Hill, I know bathrooms. We're working on bathrooms. That's number 1.
You read my mind.
Hopefully, we're going to get one at the Veterans Park, and we're going to move on doing something certainly with as we talked about today. That's certainly my goal with what we've got going in the CRA, doing something downtown with one. So
all right.
I know bathrooms are number 1.
All right.
Let's stay the course here. All right, that'll move us to the consideration of add-ons. Each of you should have at your place there, and I'm assuming Councilman Wiggins will have, I guess he got a digital copy for review of the add-on items.
I'm not 100% certain. They're
Okay.
not our items, so I'm not certain if they were sent or not.
Okay. All right, well, we will forge ahead unless I hear a request for something different. But the first item we have here for an add-on item is 20-00806, extension of mayoral declaration of state of emergency. Obviously, this is set to sunset on the 10th, I believe it is. So certainly that explains why it needs to be brought forward. There's a time-sensitive nature to it. I'll need a motion and a second. Looks like we've got a motion and a second. I don't think there's any discussion as to why it would need to be on, so please vote. Yes adds it, no does not add it. Do we need to take a roll call with?
I need to know where it is on here.
Okay, it should be a stack.
No, I mean the yes and no.
Oh,
Oh,
it
it
comes
should-
up on your screen. Oh, she doesn't, hers isn't on the screen.
It's not on the screen.
You can do a verbal one if,
Yours didn't pop up.
She must have.
Part of the onboarding, it's just throw some
Kind of
curveballs.
freaks me out a
Throw
little
some
bit.
curveballs at you and see how you handle it. You're doing great.
Yours isn't on?
Okay.
Can you do the manual one?
Yeah, so let's do we'll go old school here. We'll do a manual vote. So we've got our motion and second. So all in favor of adding this item, say aye. Aye.
I,
All
Okay.
opposed, like sign.
Councilmember Wiggins, your vote, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Aye. And Councilmember Jones is still not on, is that correct?
I don't see him
No,
up there. I don't see his-
Councilmember Jones was unable to make it due to illness.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
thank
so
you.
that item is added. That'll bring us to our second add-on item, which is 20-00814, the approval of Amtrak building and parking lot lease to Monument to Women Veterans. Again, I will need a motion and a second. And Mayor, did you have something to add?
Well, I simply wanted to say, if you saw the section, financial milestones, those were the changes, and the only other change was making it a 30-year, which was, I realize we have 4 new members as opposed to last time, but that's what the board, the council, the old council asked for the last time she was here, and so those were the two changes we made.
Okay, let's get it added on here first. All right, so, are we gonna need to go old school again?
Yes, please.
All
All
righty, so,
together.
got our motion second, adding this item, all in favor, say aye.
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 Councilmember Wiggins?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes 6-0. Blazing through, well done. That's gonna bring us to,
So I don't have the add-ons that I see.
Here,
Thank you.
take that one.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Do you not have the mayoral extension either?
I don't think so. Nope, they're not.
all
Thank
right.
you. Sorry.
No, absolutely, thank you for letting us know that, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot or throw shade, but I guess for each of these 4, if we can make sure that Ms. Breer gets a copy emailed, so she's got that.
None of the add-ons.
All right, so then the next one here, we've got item 20-00781. It's the appointment of the Community Redevelopment Agency Board Chair. I'll need a motion and a second.
Is that, I have a question.
We need a second.
I need a
Is
motion and a
that
second.
done?
I need a motion and a second
Oh.
first, Ms. Myers.
There's a motion here.
Okay, there we go. We got the motion and the
So do
second.
we do, is that on the city council's agenda or the CRA's agenda?
Yes, ma'am. CRA appoints the.
Council appoints CRA.
Council
chair.
appoints the
That's what I
CRA.
mean, council appoints the
We-
CRA chairman and vice chairman.
Okay.
So we'll take that vote on Thursday, assuming that we vote to add it on now, which, I don't mean to lobby, but please, let's, I can't take double duty through the whole year. Let's please get that on the agenda there. All right, so, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, we got the routine down now. Look at us, well-oiled machine. Look at this new council. Well done. All right, and that's our final add-on here is 20-00782, appointment of the Community Redevelopment Agency Board Vice Chair. I'll need a motion and a second. And we've got it, so, please, okay, yeah, please vote. All in favor, say aye. Golly. I bragged on us and then I dropped the ball.
Grease, right?
My bad, I jinxed us. All in favor, aye. All opposed? None. Mr. Wiggins?
I see the motion.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's the
Your
second
vote.
one. shows-
Was that an aye, Mr. Wiggins?
Absolutely, aye.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Motion passes 6-0. So we'll see all 4 of those on Thursday. All right, so Madam Clerk, reading of the items for the council agenda.
Items on the consent agenda will be items 2, 3, 4, and 5. Items on the regular agenda will be items 6 through 14, and the 4 add-on items that you all just added.
All
And
right.
those will be at the end of the agenda,
Very good.
unless you want to.
And if we wanted to shuffle those, we
You can do
could
that. Yes,
shuffle them now, or is it easier for,
now.
now is easier?
Now will be best, yes, sir.
Okay, I would think, at least at a minimum, we could put them up in front of the second reading items. We've got some pretty weighty issues there. How about that? I would move that we put these 4 add-on items at, so in between item 11 and 12. We need to have a motion and a second for that change.
You know, don't
No?
need it, no.
Okay.
So you want all 4 between items 11 and 12, or do you want to put the appointments at the top?
Let's, let's just put them all there between 11 and
Okay.
12. We can crescendo. All right, Ms.
President Moore,
Wolf.
if I may backseat drive for one moment.
Absolutely, I like when you backseat drive.
You might want to place the item concerning the state of emergency immediately before the item concerning the mask ordinance.
You know what, that's a brilliant backseat drive.
I'm done, I'm leaving now.
Madam Attorney said hang a left, I'm hanging a left. Can we put,
I'm hanging a left with you.
all
okay?
right. All right. So we don't need to reread the items for, we're good there?
No, sir.
All righty, communications.
City Administrator.
City Administrator.
I do have a couple of items, a couple of good news things. Tonight, the Gulf Breeze City Council is also considering adopting a covenant with the community there. We shared ours with them. They liked the lead that was taking, and tonight their council entertained adopting that for Gulf Breeze under the same specifications as ours is. And also with regards to Gulf Breeze, we are we're working with them, and they brought this idea up. They wanted to establish a youth council, which is a council of high school students appointed by their city council. They wanted to do it jointly with the city of Pensacola. So after the first of the year, I anticipate bringing this back to council. They'll bring it to their council, and we'll try to do it jointly in the sense of a partnership. And then hopefully they would adopt projects or bookend projects on each side of the 3 Mile Bridge to sort of commemorate sister cities and collaboration and working together.
Wow, very, very cool. Thank you.
This is one of the initiatives we had wanted to do. I know it had been Councilwoman Canada Wynn's priority that she'd wanted to do for a long time, and we were going to do it last year, and then COVID just kind of made, but I'm glad to see it coming forward and getting it done. So I was sorry we were not able to do it before Councilwoman Canada Wynn left, because this is something she had been wanting to do, but I'm excited we're going to get it done. We wanted to do it a while back. The other thing that I simply wanted to say is I believe Councilwoman Breyer, we're having a dedication for our roundabout on Friday, I believe, is the day we set. So we'll be doing that Friday morning at 10 o'clock, I believe.
I haven't gotten back to my email, but yeah, that's great with me.
Okay. So I think Friday at 10 is when we're looking to do that, and if you're available, come see it, come drive it. I've driven it a couple of times. My conviction for a while is that Northwest Floridians could do one actually in Northwest Florida, and for the most part, they seem to have done it. So come see the roundabout, and I think it'll be a great opportunity to see and learn as we move forward and looking at different traffic calming opportunities that we can do. I think it certainly will offer us options as we look to things go forward.
Very good.
May I say something about it?
Yes.
It does move people faster. There's no doubt about it. There's not a stop there, and people are moving through it faster. The calming is the question, because they move quicker. So they're coming out of Hilltop faster now. So outside of it, it definitely is a people mover. That's a fact.
Well, I mean, you have to slow in. You have to slow in to come in, because you got.
No, they do not.
If they don't do that, they're gonna eventually find something happens. So you are supposed to slow down coming into it. I've slowed down every time.
But it does look good, and people are getting used to it. I will agree with that.
All right, great. And I've driven it a few times myself. I didn't get stuck in its orbit, was able to just catch it and keep going. So that legend's not true either. Well done. City Attorney's communication.
Thank you, President. No communications tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wolf. And Ms. Lavoy, just reading the leaves, already on her way down.
While she's pulling this up, there are certainly challenges financial that we're dealing with, but for the most part, the city of Pensacola is in incredibly good financial health, and that's despite COVID and a hurricane. There are a lot of cities out there that are hurting right now after COVID, so we should feel very fortunate that some of the actions we've taken, the things we've done, the decisions we've made have put us into a good position where we're able to weather the storms, so to speak.
All right, Mr.
Council
Boyd.
President, council members, thank you very much. I will add a cyber attack that we started the year with. So we've been from a cyber attack to a hurricane with a pandemic in the middle. And yes, we have finished the financial fiscal year very well, despite all that. So we did see slower growth in the economy due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused a decrease in our sales tax revenues. Other than that, with our ad valorem growing nicely and everything else, we did finish the year quite well. This was a little bit of a surprise to me. I expected more impact than we had, but we finished off the year pretty well. I will say one thing on interest rates. We were out for quotes today, I believe, with CD rates for our surplus cash. The investment rate, the CD rates that we were quoted were 0.1%. So. In the general fund, one of the things I want to call your attention to, if you ever look at our audited financial reports, is that you will see the general fund revenue down by $1 million. I don't want that to alarm you, because what that is in fiscal year 19, we transferred money from another fund into the general fund, which resulted in abnormal revenues in 2019, which weren't present in 2020. It's nothing to be alarmed at. I did want to call your attention to that. Overall, the general fund revenues were up, despite COVID in the general fund. So you can see that property tax revenue was up 1.2 million. You can see that the sales tax revenues and anything related to sales tax revenues were down. The half-cent sales tax was down $143,000, but overall the general fund looked quite healthy. So I know that the council, Special Councilwoman Myers, has asked questions about what we do with unspent monies at the end of the year. Well, that combined with some other calculations is actually called a fund balance, and we are required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB. For those of you who are accounting, this is the government version of FASB. So they require that we divide our fund balance into several categories, ranging from the very, very restricted, otherwise called non-spendable, to the unassigned and available, which is, of course, the very unrestricted and available. So in this situation, non-spendable, and you'll go see this in a second, is not spendable in any form. This is in the form of something like prepaid expenses, which is what you'll see in just a second. Restricted. This is something that is restricted by external sources or obligations. Every time that we issue a purchase order or the council approves a contract, when that purchase order comes out, we immediately encumber the funds, meaning we set aside cash to pay the entire obligation. So once we do that, once you've approved this, then that becomes on our balance sheet a restricted money. We've set aside the cash for it. Other things are things like state law, city law that make changes to the financial obligations. Committed. This is something that has been set aside normally by the city council for a purpose. Assigned. That is typically something that my office requests from the city council to assign the fund balance or set aside this money for a specific reason. Unassigned. That is the least restricted and therefore is available. And with that, I will show you what your general fund wound up with, because I know this has been a question. We have $50,000 in prepaid expenses. That is something it is categorized as non-spendable because you can't take that away. We have restricted. That is Sanger Capital, meaning they have some revenues that have been restricted for Sanger Capital. And the encumbrance carry forward appropriation. This is monies that have purchase orders underlying them, meaning we have set these aside. We have set cash aside to pay those purchase orders. So in order to undo that, you would need to undo the underlying purchase order as a result of that. Below that, you will see your committed. This is a council policy, the reserve. You can see that the council requires, I believe, a 20% reserve in the general fund. That is a very, very healthy reserve. We are sitting at 23.47% right now, so we've actually exceeded that. And it was increased because of the interest earnings that's been earned on that. In the future, I would like you to think about, instead of letting those interest earnings run into your reserves, when your reserves are higher than your required policy, and maybe return that money to the general fund and allow it to be spent on things. You have your tree planting money, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and you have park purchases funds. This is money that comes in from park rentals, and therefore we restrict them exclusively for purchases and for parks. The next one I want to call your attention to is down here under the assigned. It's $515,000. If you recall, that's for your Housing Initiatives Fund. This is set aside monies from years gone by, and it's also monies that we divest ourselves of property and sell it. That money tends to go into the housing initiatives if it's an unrestricted piece of property. So a question we had earlier was, where are we going to get the money for our 12.5% match for Hurricane Sally? I know this was a question relatively recently. So we are requesting tonight, Thursday night, that you set aside $1.8 million to allow us for the 12.5% match. This is a 12.5% match for Hurricane Sally, as well as any monies that from the pandemic that we were asked to send to FEMA instead of to the CARES Act. So this is set aside for both of those. We're leaving it in the general fund at the moment, but we're asking you to set aside for Sally and CARES Act deductions. The unencumbered carry forward appropriation, a little over $1 million. I will go over that with you in a second, so I'm just going to skip right by that. I believe you had a question. There is a supplemental budget amendment on the agenda for Thursday for $271,300. It's to fund year one of the union agreement that you saw on your obligation. Primarily, this is raises for firefighters, and that is what you're funding. So, if you will come down to the bottom line, $506,000 is unassigned and available. What that means is it's there, we don't have an appropriation for it, so you won't see it on a supplemental budget amendment because we don't have any place to appropriate it. I know I've had conversations with the mayor about it, so he's aware of it, and I do believe has some ideas that may be forthcoming on it. So, the reserves has gone up $196,000. Those are the interest earnings that I told you about. In the future, I would like you to consider at least till we drop down to the 20% level, maybe retargeting those interest earnings back into the general fund. By that, I mean we set aside $13 million in cash. It earns interest. I'm saying instead of putting interest in that fund, just let it stay by itself and put the interest earnings in the general fund. That's just something to consider in the future. So, tree planting trust fund, we have on our budget amendment tonight, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute, is $528,000. This is the tree planting money that I'm sure you're all aware of. It is all available for expenditure. So, Park Planches Trust Fund, this is something I went over just a few minutes ago. It's $110,700. By name, it is used for park purchases. Housing Initiatives Trust Fund, this is something I went over briefly. It's $515,000. It's primarily made up of when we sell a property that's unrestricted, this money goes into the housing initiatives. I will say one of the actions that we've taken is is recruiting. I'm not sure we've hired a housing person to pay attention to the housing initiatives, and that person's salary will be coming out of that fund unless you tell me something otherwise. So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly because I do want to dwell a little bit on other slides rather than this. Whenever you see green, obviously that's something nothing to see. So one of the funds that did get impacted a little bit was our local option gas tax fund. I do attribute this almost exclusively to the pandemic because their gas prices, or nothing else in the economy seems to dictate that. So the fact that we were out driving around less meant people were filling up less, meant their gas taxes were less. It's not something that that is worrisome at this point. The ending restricted fund balance for that still is over $1.1 million. So while we were impacted, it didn't hurt us that bad. Stormwater Utility Fund. So we have a committed fund balance of $408,000. This is something that in September, I believe we will be asking you to look at the Stormwater Utility Fund assessment to increase it. The Natural Disaster Fund is A little scary when you see that slide, which is expenditures and encumbrances, meaning expenditures and purchase orders are greater than 11, the greater by a measly $11.1 million. What we do is all of our expenditures will be had before we get pretty much any FEMA or state reimbursements for Hurricane Sally. So as we continue down the road paying firefighters during the actual act, or when we are repairing things, the primary cost, of course, is debris pickup. So as we incur these costs, we will probably incur 95% of our costs before we get any FEMA reimbursement. So when you see this slide, it looks very bad, but I'm explaining it because that we will spend it before we get it in the case of a hurricane. Municipal golf course, municipal golf, and tennis actually wound up very well because during the pandemic, those were socially distant sports, so they actually did very well. Inspections. This is a fund I look at as a bellwether to see how our property taxes are doing. You can see that it did very well. Revenues exceeded expenditures by $200,000, and revenues exceeded our budget expectation. So that's always a bellwether for your general fund because it harbors what's going to happen for property taxes. Tennis fund did very well. The Maritime Park Fund is, of course, COVID impacted because we didn't have a baseball season. Expenditures exceeded revenue by $12,000. It's probably the most COVID impacted fund we have right now. Local option sales tax. This is another impacted fund. We probably at this point, as a result of COVID-19, are about $850,000 off our prognostications through the life of the tax, through 2028. We consider that enough to pay attention to, but not enough for us to start taking affirmative actions. What we are doing is when there's a project that's been budgeted and it's completed, the money that's left over after that project is completed, a lot of times we'll ask you to scoot it over to a different project. We won't be asking that anymore. We'll just take it off to try to offset the $850,000. That, again, this is not something right now we need to worry about, especially since right after the end of the year we had we will be impacted the other way with Hurricane Sally as our sales tax go right back up. I'm going to skip through these because I know it's been a long afternoon. Gas utility fund is probably the finest fund we have in the city, and it is again done very well. The sanitation fund, kudos to all of those people who were done in the sanitation fund for everything they've done. They wound up the year better than expected. Port of Pensacola deserves a victory lap. They've done very well. Their finances have turned around, probably done a 180 since I saw them in 2019. The airport fund. So I did want to call your attention to that. This is a impacted fund, obviously. We drew down $5 million in CARES Act money. So we are intending to draw another at least $5 million in fiscal year 21. In this situation, when you see your net current assets for fiscal year 20 have increased by $7.6 million, about $5 million of that is related to your drawing CARES Act money. And the CARES Act dictates that primarily that be used to assist the airlines. And in this case, in fiscal year 21, we will take the money that we drew in 20, and in fiscal year 21, we will lower the rates that the airlines have to pay at the airport to offset that, to remain competitive. Legal cost schedule. This was something that previous city councils have always wanted to see. We have reformatted it slightly so that you can see the different categories of legal costs. If you have any questions on any of them, I certainly can help you with them, and I know Susan can help you with them as well. Police and fire and general pensions. The most important thing whenever you look at your pension plans and you see anything is how they have performed relative to the assumed rate. So remember, the city council, anything that your investments don't cover in the pension fund and is not contributed by the employees, the city council and the city is responsible for the remaining portion of those costs. So you always want to meet or beat the assumed rate in your pension. In this case, all of them, FY20, you can see 8.7% beat the actuarial assessment of 7.2%. So across the board, all of our pensions lists in fiscal year 20 did better than the assumed rate. So with that, I'm going to switch gears for a second because I know that you would ask a question about what some of the things we were bringing forward on that supplemental budget amendment for the non-encumbered carryover. And I did want to walk through some of those changes. So let's see if I can manage this. And I promise I will not do every fund that you have. So, part of this that you will see coming forward is an appropriations for city council. If you recall, every year, every year, if you don't spend all of your discretionary funds, we roll those into the new year. If a city councilman, if a sitting city councilman leaves office and has a balance remaining, that balance does not carry forward to the new city councilman. So the new city council person starts from ground zero. So we are carrying all that forward. We have a $50,000 appropriation because for the first time in 10 years, you'll be responsible for redistricting in the city council. So this can range in anything from GIS assistance to professional help walking through those consultants. And $145,400 is for third floor renovations, town hall meetings, mailers, etc. You can see that we have $10,000 in HR. I promise I won't go through every expenditure. $10,000 to replace furniture in the training room and the conference room on the 4th floor. We have planning grants. You can see these are grants that were awarded in 20, but they were not finished until 21. So you can see we're carrying over monies for Broadview Farms, Scenic Heights, Cordova Farms, Bay Oaks, Town Square, and Villas. Because the project was commenced in 20, but we did not have a cost until 21, we carried over the flat amount of $150,000 for the removal of the Confederate monument. That bill came in at $135,000, so we have $15,000 remaining. But I do know that there's going to be some discussions about what to do with the monument from that point.
We have to move it, so yeah, that's
Yes.
money left to be done.
There you go. So, if you recall, we had earlier $242,409 for the Sanger capital purchases. This is from that restricted fund balance that you previously saw, so they're bringing that money forward to actually expend. We have a $12,500 increase. This is an increase in an appropriation to the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce. The next two are amendments I believe you did in November to the Human Relations Commission budget. You wanted them to be able to roll their money forward, and this is the budget amendment to actually accomplish that. And then we have $25,000 in an increase appropriation to UWF Historic Trust. This is for the 200th anniversary of the Escambia County in the state of Florida. So I can go through more funds if you like. I don't know that you want me to, but I can answer any questions that you might have or go back and answer any questions that you might have. With that, feel free at any time to ask me any questions. I'm always upstairs.
All right. I don't think we have any speakers. Do we have speakers?
Okay.
Are you, okay. I thought those were phantoms. I see Grover's lit up too. So, Ms. Myers?
Yes. First of all, I would like to ask you a few questions. So can you send me a copy of your PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I would like to have it as soon as possible so that I can look at it.
Sure.
Because I cannot see it. All right, I don't have the right kind of glasses with me to see that screen. So if I could get that as soon as possible, I'd appreciate it. I wanted to ask you about the $1.2 million, I believe you said, in matching funds for FEMA.
1.8, yes, ma'am.
Oh, 1.8. So where is that 1.8 coming from?
It is coming from the fund balance in the general fund. So basically, all of the monies left over from previous years rolled together make up your fund, primarily make up your fund balance.
Okay, now did you say that there's $515,000 of unencumbered funds?
I did, 507,000 right at it. but yes, ma'am.
507,000. So explain to me, if you don't mind, again, what that is and what it can be used for.
I know this print is small, but the $506,000 is money that, in our terms, is unassigned and available, meaning it is in the general fund. It's part of all the leftover monies from the general fund, and it has no home. It has nothing to be spent for yet.
Okay, so we have, so could that money be placed in the line item for the Tippin Park Community Center?
Hypothetically, it could.
Pardon?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
It could.
so that's a source of funding for that community center, and there wouldn't be any problem if council agreed in placing those unencumbered funds that don't have a home into the community center line item.
There is, correct. The city council could designate these funds for that purpose.
Okay. So basically, that's money that we could use for a community center. We could maybe use it for street lighting, but we could use it for whatever we want to use it for, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, well, I'm just going to put council on notice that I will be asking for those funds for that community center, which would bring that up to $1.5 million. So how would I go about doing that? Would that be Thursday night, or what's the process?
I would actually, might defer to your representative as to the specific method that, for us, it's just putting a supplemental budget amendment forward to the council. But as far as the exact mechanisms to do that, I would defer to Dawn on that.
Yep, so wouldn't that be something the finance director would?
That would be if I was recommending it.
I know you're
certainly
not
would bring it forward.
recommending it, I'm just asking about the process.
Yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am. Normally what we'll do is you'll make that request if it requires a supplemental budget resolution.
It does.
It won't, right?
It will.
It will. Then we get with you all and you do the resolution for us. You do
Okay.
all the number stuff.
Okay.
Historically, Yvette does those.
Okay, I'll get together with Don and ask him about the process. The other thing I wanted to ask you about clarification on is council's discretionary fund. Did you say that discretionary money that is not used by the fiscal year, that is not forwarded over to does that move over to the next year?
It does if you're a returning city council person.
If you're returning. So the new council members would not get discretionary money.
Not leftover discretionary
Not
money. They only get the
leftover,
current
okay.
year's.
So what would happen to that money?
It rolls back into the general fund and becomes part of the fund balance that you just heard about.
Okay, so actually, you mean in that $507,000?
It is part of that it is part of that overall fund balance,
Mhm.
but yes, it could have rolled into the 507.
Yeah, okay, I see. Well, I hate that the new council members, if there is any money, do not have access to that. So is that something that we can change, or?
They do have access. They have a prorated amount for the current year. The only thing that doesn't carry over, as an example, if money was left over in Dr. Wu's discretionary fund, it didn't carry over for Councilmember Brayer. But Councilmember Brayer has her prorated amount for the 2020 year. So she has
8,900, something like that.
17.
Yeah.
$8,917. And then the previous council member had 1,600 something dollars for those, that time period that they were a council member after October 1st. So all the new council members have $8,917.
Okay, well, that's good to know. One last question that I never got a satisfactory answer for was how much unencumbered funds were there in 2019, the end of 2019, and where did they go? You don't have to answer that tonight. I mean, I've asked you that before, if you recall. But I still don't feel like I know the answer to that. So, you know.
So if you look at the, I'll tell you what, I know these numbers are too small to read, so let me send you the spreadsheet and circle the amounts that you're
Okay.
talking about, because this is too.
All right, right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lavoy. All right, that answer your question, Ms.
Yes.
Myers? Okay.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask Director Lavoy a question. If that $506,000 is totally depleted, does that take away council's ability in case there's negative revenues in the remainder of the year?
The remainder of 21?
Yeah, yes.
So it could impact it, but this is monies that are already accrued. So it could, in theory, but it would have to go down a lot.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right.
All right, thank you. All right, I see no additional questions. That brings us to city council communication. I see no speakers. All right, well, don't try to wander off. We've got CRA. We'll take just enough time to stretch your legs, and we'll reconvene. Let's shoot for 5 minutes. This meeting's adjourned.